Yeah, I think the problem with the traditional method is it's well known inside the business community and the technology community that there is a standard RFI, RFP, go to do some demos process around the technology and a technology sale. I think the major failing with that process is it is a process rather than an ability for the two organisations that ultimately should work together to go and deliver a business outcome for the customer to understand each other and trust each other and work out if they can actually go and deliver something together, because it's effectively two strangers courting, trying to come together to deliver a solution. It's a bit like a blind date, and instead of putting it on paper in demos, you actually need to be in dialogue and in discussion. And the best way that a vendor, technology vendor, can do that is to get alongside that customer and truly understand what their buying process is, rather than just trying to go through the traditional process. The problem with that statement, and the fact is everyone's had that training, therefore everyone knows that's what we're out there to do. We all prepare our demos, we all know that the competition's going to be doing exactly the same thing. So for you as a business to actually go and win, you've got to differentiate yourselves. It's not going to be on a rule book that's come out of some how to sell to a customer campaign. So if you can get through those process steps and then win the engagement, when you do your win review, if you get from the customer, we chose you because we think we can work with you and we trust you, then you've really changed that paradigm on the head, and it's not about the demos and the discussions, it's actually about they now believe they can work with you to successfully deliver their business outcome.
So
we changed the emphasis around trying to truly understand the business processes. Often customers, when they go to market to buy, they spend a lot of time on their requirements, which tend to be technical requirements in the technical industry, but really what we try and do is unpeel the layers of those technical requirements to understand what the business outcomes are that they're trying to get to. And if you can then marry a great technical outcome to a great business outcome and demonstrate you can achieve that, then you're really moving far more into their world rather than your world of there's 5 steps to go and sell some technology.
What's your take on things out there?
We certainly see certain sectors are not moving that way. Public sector, because of all the rules around the way they must buy and the fact that they're not allowed to engage in what I was coining the dating scene in terms of getting together and working out whether you can trust each other. Very hard to do in public sector. But we're now seeing more and more where companies have been burnt by the traditional RFP process in technology. They're now trying to change the way they buy to ensure, I think they've discovered that the traditional process can burn you and you can end up with the wrong supplier. So they are looking far more to trust someone before they are to score their RFP. Yeah, I think we're starting to see a change in the way technology companies are trying to lead their customers. If you can get to the point where they've trusted you enough to reveal what their business outcomes they're looking for in the next 12 to 18 months, and then even more importantly, if you can work with them to say, well, if that's your business outcome, this is what your technology outcome needs to look like. And then if you could really go the next level and say, and by the way, I can't do all of this, I can only do these 5 pieces. Can you imagine what the customer's thinking when you're admitting that there's components you can't do? Because the traditional engagement is, I can do everything for you, we do technology, we could do anything. But if you can go to them and actually say, there's some stuff we can't do here, or even better, our competitor over here can do that, but we know these 3 components we can nail for you and with you. I would argue you're probably not giving profit away for a couple of reasons. One, you're back to old school, so you're just competing with everyone else on the same platform, so your ability to win potentially goes down. But also secondly, if you genuinely aren't in those areas, how well are you going to execute on that project, and how much eggy do you leave on your face when you do nail the bit you're good at, but then ruin 3 bits that you actually aren't really ideally set up to deliver? Yeah, that works all the way up to the go live point often, if you've got good project management team, but often it'll even fail sooner than that. But in the end of the day, if it's an area you're not good at or don't have the capability, eventually the duck will flip upside down and everyone will see your feet are going 100 miles an hour. Yeah, so from our perspective, a roadmap really is how do I get to the business outcome I'm looking for in a couple of years' time, both from a business process and organisational structure, but obviously in the tech sector also from the technology you're deploying to do that, particularly in this digital disrupted world where technology is driving process change and all change. They're all intimately tied together. But I guess what we are seeing in the customer base in New Zealand at the moment is we've got a group of CEOs that are wanting to be educated by their CIOs and also wanting their boards to be educated. And those guys are really driving very fast down the technology is going to make my business win. And then we've got a whole lot of other boards and CEOs that really are trying to ignore it, maybe because they don't understand technology and they're a little bit scared about it, or maybe they just don't think the world is quite changing as fast as the press is saying it is. And we're really finding there's two modes of boards and CEOs at the moment. Whereas I know of several CIOs around New Zealand now that every conversation I have with them starts and ends with the business outcome, and the technology really is just the method to get to that business outcome. And we really need to see a lot more CIOs starting to think business outcome first, technology second, because you're right, otherwise you'll end up, even if you do fund them, you'll just end up with a whole lot of cool toys and you won't have fundamentally improved your business. So I think the first thing you need to do is put the buzzwords down. Don't talk blockchain, don't talk big data, don't talk AI, etc., because immediately you're going to turn him off, because he probably doesn't understand what those terms mean anyway, and in his world that doesn't mean anything to the outcome of his business. So put the buzzwords down and then start thinking about the implications of those technologies on the way businesses are doing business, and then start having a discussion with them about, imagine if the business could do this, or imagine if we had this answer within seconds rather than maybe days that we've got it now, and really bring it back to his business and what it could be like, rather than going, blockchain could do this for you. Say, imagine if we had this mechanism whereby our customers would sign contracts immediately and we would know that the goods were being fulfilled within an hour. So the other way that I've seen this very effectively done is where the CIO makes sure he goes and talks to the CEO's direct reports and makes sure he brings them on the journey before he goes and talks to her about the journey that he's wanting them to take. And one of the great things about that is if a CIO gets involved in the different business areas and starts living what that business does, it then opens his mind into what the possibilities for this technology could be for the business. So when he eventually does get to the CEO and he has the discussion with her, he's already got that future thinking around what the business could potentially be doing with the new technology. And again, goes back to her though only with the, imagine our business was like this. Absolutely. Successful CIOs should be out in the business as much as they are directing back in the technology team. Yeah, so if you think about that selling process, what happens is a customer goes back into their business, provides a list of technical requirements they need for whatever technology they've gone to market for, and then they assume that the technology vendors will then answer those questions. If we can turn that on the head, get alongside the customer and start peeling the onion back from those technological requirements to what are the business outcomes I'm looking for, we often find as we're going through that process that the customer actually has asked for a technical answer when there are other better technical answers, and you've really changed the process at that point, because all of your competitors will be sitting there answering the technical answer to that technical question, and the customer has moved on from that because they've been presented by you with a whole new opportunity to change their business, and it moves out of that traditional RFP buying process. And it would be fair to say, in our experience, you don't get to do it 100% of the time, so we still do end up in the traditional RFP processes. But if you can make that change, then really what it is about selling to the potential customer the benefit of having someone just having a second look at why they're asking those questions. We're still going to answer those questions for you, Mr. Customer, but we just want to dig into the reasons behind those questions just a little bit more. And if you can do that, and you can do it in an empathetic way and discover some gold early on, you'll be amazed how quickly they'll open up to that. To be honest, in my experience, the CIOs that start thinking about business outcomes don't have to sell it. The CEOs actually almost light up and go, oh my goodness, we're now talking the same language, because you used to come at me with buzzwords and now you're coming at me with business outcomes, which is what I live in day to day. So you're actually doing the opposite. You shouldn't have to sell it, because the CEO is going to love the fact that you're talking about his business, not talking about your technology.